When the mothers were telling me, we don't want another one of my kids to die, can you stop it? When I began to walk across the street and I saw how fast they all drew their guns on me, and I realized that at any second, if my hands were not up like this when I was walking across the street, I could have gotten killed. I realized that something had to be done, that this could not be the same. Justice needed to prevail. My name's Tim Ortiz. I was born and raised in Ramona Gardens. I was also a lifetime member of the Hazard Gang. My family was so popular, we're automatically breeded for the gang life. My uncles, generations of gang members they came out of my family, from my grandma to my uncles and aunts. So I automatically fell into the barrio at 12 years old. Gang banging is it is a unique lifestyle. It's hard to understand what would motivate somebody like me to be from the gang for years and years and not think of losing a lifestyle. But the gang to me was everything.
You've been shot before, right? In the gang.
Yeah, I've been shot several times.
You consider that being a deterrent to want to move you away from that lifestyle, or give you more incentive to keep pushing?
People don't understand the black market, the black trading. They tend not to understand the world of corruption. People like corruption, bro. People like the thrill of doing something and getting away with it and not getting caught. And being a gang member makes that game when we were kids, cops and robbers, a more reality, because when I got into the gang, LAPD was not my friend. Neither was the sheriff's department or any other law enforcement. They were not my friend. And they live up to that standard as well. So to a gang member, they're considered another gang. And that's all they were considered to me. I love gang banging. That was all I knew.
So you were exposed to a lot of violence as a gang member?
When I was a kid, I was exposed to violence growing up. I saw my dad beat my mom. My dad beat me for no reason. Was telling me that I was never going to be I wasn't his kid. I belonged to somebody else. Every time my little brothers did wrong, I got the beating for it because I was told I wasn't his kid. And it escalated. I seen my mother stab him 7 times. I seen my mother try to kill him with rat poison. I seen my mother throw hot lard on him, hit him with the iron, fully heated. I saw that lifestyle, so I automatically was not immune to violence. But what I was immune to was seeing somebody that was supposed to protect me, and me have the confidence that when I seen a black and white or a sheriff, that sense of security could not be there, because I saw the bad part. I saw the gang part of the departments. When you see the crimes that the LAPD officers do, when you're being a gang member and they get away with it, bro, they're just a gang to you, bro. That's all they are. They're just criminals with the right to kill.
So you had a turning point in your lifestyle, and it changed your life, basically. You had a moment where your life just completely took a turn and something else happened to you. Can you tell us, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, there was, after I got shot in the head 3 times, and I can't go on to say what happened to the other guy, but you know, I'm here and who knows where he's at. But I realized that there had to be something different. This wasn't a lifestyle. I was sitting there, and I was so far gone before I was a community activist from PCP that people would call me a chemical factory. They'd call me a pharmacy. They used to call me sickathy because I was so tore up on drugs. I was sick-minded. People live for that kind of stuff in the gangs, bro. They live for sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You know what I mean? They live it life to the fullest. But I never looked at LAPD as something I would want to be, because I experienced the hands-on corruption from the beginning. I saw what they would do to people that they would consider gang members when they would come and grab them and take them and drop them off in rival gangs. It's done a lot to the Crips and Bloods where Bloods are caught, they're dropped off in Crip neighborhood. Or you know, Big Hazard, you're caught, you're dropped off in 18th Street, and they know what they're doing. They'll leave you right there and take off. And I've seen all this. I've seen the crookedness in the department as well as the crookedness in the gang, and they're pretty much hand in hand, bro. They're at the same level.
So you just made mention of a word. You said activist. I want to hear about that. When did you initiate that? Right? And why? What's going on?
Well, the gang life was getting old. And I started looking at everybody that I knew. And a lot of the veteranos that I once looked up to were homeless, were sleeping in abandoned cars, abandoned buildings, sleeping in a park bench, you know, sleeping in holes in the wall, slamming heroin, doing drugs, doing whatever they can do. You know what I mean? And that was their lifestyle. And one day the Lord told me, that's you if you don't come to me. That's your future. I have a plan for you. So it was at that moment where I realized that God had a plan for me, but something had to be done. I wanted to give back to the community that I once terrorized. And when I started doing that, I automatically fell into becoming against the grain. The homies were constantly checking on me. They would pop in the community meetings. They'd see me there. And they were just checking to make sure that I made sure LAPD wasn't involved in the meetings. I had that coming against me. And then I had law enforcement looking for the opportunity to talk to me for a little bit. Then they would start popping the questions. Hey, who's this guy? Or what do you know about this? And, you know, I was just there to make a difference. I knew I had to make a difference somehow or some way. Something had to be done. And I started getting involved with cleaning up the community, you know, having weeds, junk, everything, all the debris thrown, and I'd get a group of kids around, and that worked fine. We would ask Subway if they wanted to sponsor a cleanup, and we'd clean up a couple of blocks and feed the kids some sandwiches. And then I seen that these kids just wanted something to do. But when they killed Arturo Jimenez, that made a tremendous impact in my life because it made me wonder if we're ducking bullets from another gang member and LAPD can kill somebody or the sheriff's department can kill somebody and just leave them there to die. Like if he was some kind of a dog that didn't have a mother or a father or didn't have any kids or any life or somebody didn't know him. This was a human being. This was a creature that God created, that God loved, and he dies in the hands of somebody that we are paying to protect and serve.
Who was Arturo Jimenez, since you knew him?
Arturo Jimenez was a friend of mine, de aquellas type guy, un pisto de aquellas, a beer, here and there, joint here and there. Let's go party, let's go to the beach, let's do this. He wasn't known for jumping in a car with a couple of straps and doing stuff like that. He was killed behind somebody throwing a bottle. At that point, I began to realize that there was a bigger need in the community. And when Arturo Jimenez was killed and just left to die like that, I had no hope at all. I had no hope with law enforcement. I was like, if they can do that and get away with it and brush it underneath the carpet, if I was to do it, would they look at me the same? No, they'd throw the book at me. They'd do everything they can to make sure I would not get out. When they killed this guy and they had no consideration for his mother, they had no consideration if he had kids, they were just trying to justify an act that they did, killing a guy over somebody throwing a bottle. It was a police car that hit the bottle. It didn't hit a police officer. It was a bottle that was thrown. It could have been anybody. But when they pulled up, one of the other gang members has a brace. And when you walk with the brace, you get the shotgun effect. When that went off, that was their excuse to say he had a gun, and they started spraying into the crowd, killing Arturo Jimenez.
One night near the end of our shoot, Arturo Jimenez, a Hazard gang member and one of our extras, was shot and killed by a deputy of the sheriff's department.
Well, it makes me sad, bro. You know, there's a lot of sadness in my neighborhood. There's a lot of homeboys that I know that died. You know, it's really not like a big thing anymore, you know?
Then when they shot him, he was still alive. The ambulance got him, took him out of the hostile environment, took him to the factories where nobody can see, and they left him there to die. That was good enough to make me understand that anybody was vulnerable at the hands of these assassins who had a badge. When the killing took place, a lot of the people from the projects, they came out and they were standing around. One of the ladies walked up to me and said, "You work for the community. Maybe you can go and talk to the police officers or the sheriffs and tell them to back off," because they were already barricading the projects and they were surrounding it with deputies to go in and do a sweep. And they were trying to justify why Arturo Jimenez was killed because they were trying to make the community look like they were uncivilized. And they were trying to say that the riot was incited. They were trying to create this so they could have some kind of justification for the act they just committed. And when the mothers were telling me, "We don't want another one of my kids to die, can you stop it?" When I began to walk across the street and I saw how fast they all drew their guns on me, and I realized that at any second, if my hands were not up like this when I was walking across the street, I could have gotten killed. I realized that something had to be done, that this could not be the same. Justice needed to prevail. The following day, community activists that I knew, we were all talking, and a friend of mine by the name of Art told me, "You got to do something, bro. You work for Mike Garrett, you work for the boxing program, you need to step in, you're a face the community recognizes, you need to put a stop to it or somebody else is gonna die." He said, "You need to call a press conference." And boy, did that press conference change my world, bro. I did not expect what was about to come. I had no idea the struggle and the giant I was up against. But I opened my mouth and I sat there and I remember that I just said, "Sherman Block, I want your job. I'm coming after you. I'm coming after your deputies, and I'm coming after your killers behind the badge." After I said that, my whole life was not the same. It's changed. It changed overnight. From 1 minute to the next, I was somebody I didn't know how to be. And that somebody I didn't know how to be was carrying the community to the next stage, meaning anything I would have did wrong could have led to a riot, could have led to another murder, could have led to me getting killed. It got bad. I was getting threats, you being an ex-police officer, me getting threats every day. I was getting phone calls. I was going to the protesting. And the more I saw that the sheriff didn't like it, the more I didn't like it either. The more I became more motivated to continue to finish the fight, because I already didn't like law enforcement. I saw the corruption of law enforcement. I lived it. I saw the setting up, the framing. I saw everything they do. I saw how they would put cocaine in your pocket when they were searching you and say, "Oh, look what we found." I saw that, hands first. So I never liked them. That was the big push. The second big push was when they came and they tried to annihilate and my character and who I was, and they would start saying in the press that I was just a gangbanger and I was just this and everything else. That came out, and I really looked forward, and I felt like I had a vendetta now. I had something that I had to correct. Something had to be done. And there was nothing that was going to stop me after that. I jumped in on this. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know I was going to have to run the rest of my life. I didn't know I was going to have to wear bulletproof vests. I didn't know that I was going to have volunteer security guards to protect me everywhere I went. routines where, dude, things went through me that I couldn't imagine, bro. Before a press conference, people we would go the day before, and we would set up an escape route because we had former LAPD officers who were against the department, and they knew what to expect. So they would come out and they would say, tomorrow's protest going to be here. You need to meet me here. We got to come up with an escape route. Once you're done, we got to get you out of there. So similar to like what the president, what happens to him when he gives his speech or he's in a hostile area, how he walks out and somebody cuts in and he just disappears. Well, that's what this former police officer was doing for me, and got some of the gangbangers to be my guards. And he says, look, here's how you do it. The routine is once you make your press conference, you walk away from the scene, you just disappear in the crowd, and we have a car waiting for you. The escape routes, everything had to be planned. Everywhere I went, I had that hanging over me, that if a deputy catches me, who knows what he's gonna do.
Was it worth the sacrifice? Because you did make a lot of enemies.
Would I do it again? Yeah. Would I put my life on the line for something that's not right? Yeah, I would do it again, and I'll do it again. It was the biggest satisfying thing I ever got, because I had the ability to kick politicians where the sun don't shine and let them know this Mexican who you thought, this ex-Cholo who you thought was not gonna get this independent investigation for a wrong that you did, proved you guys wrong. And that was the biggest satisfaction that I've ever got in my life. It was a championship bout for me. It was the Super Bowl for me. It was something that, for a community activist who was just made activist overnight, and to jump in and to get a big victory over a dinosaur like the Sheriff's Department was far beyond a Super Bowl ring. Because that's a story that nobody could ever tell but me. Emotionally, I lost my identity. When somebody lost their life physically, I lost my identity. I could not have a regular identity. I couldn't be like anybody else that could just stand in front of a sheriff and say, hey, I'm so-and-so. I lost that. And I could never gain that back. I could never gain those years back where I couldn't do things. My wife was a sheriff. She worked for the Sheriff's Department as a court clerk. Not once had I ever be able to go to any of their Christmas balls or anything like that, because I knew that I was a hot commodity. I was a hot tamale, bro. Any peace officer would have got me at that time. Any system I would have hit, anybody that works law enforcement knows I wouldn't have made it out. But it was worth it. It was well worth it. And it even led to where I'm about to be doing now. And it's changed my life completely to the point where I know that the only one that corrects things and does the right things is God.
What do you think will help improve the relationship between the community and the police departments, sheriff's departments?
Training techniques, not stereotyping, because bottom line is this: each peace officer's got a gang member in the family. I don't care what you say. They got a cousin, a sister, a prima, a primo, a brother-in-law, a son-in-law, something that's a gangbanger. As long as you're gonna have gangbangers, police are needed. But you know what? A lot of it is the training. Because I've heard from fallen police officers and officers that are no longer with the department, was saying that part of it's the aggressive training that they go through. You know, if they learn to look at gang members as just regular people, and not all they got guns, and not all stereotyped as people they're gonna kill, if their training techniques would change, they would change their mentality and the mentality of the force in general. But I really think that Anybody who is a first-time responder, believer or not, they're going to be faced with tough decisions. And it all depends on the officer who's there on the decision he makes, because if he makes a decision to pull that trigger, he's going to have to pay for that life he killed if he didn't have a probable cause. And I want to pray that if you're working for the department right now and you're hearing this interview, don't leave your house without praying. Seek the Lord in all you do. Because police officers, they need God, just like anybody else. They're susceptible of making mistakes just like me and you can. But I do thank God that He's the reason why I was able to be put in that position to survive the protesting and to survive the threats and the constant having to wear a bulletproof vest and to living the life that I had no life. I became accustomed to it. And becoming accustomed to it actually led me closer to the Lord, because I couldn't break no law. I would have walked right in to a Meshach, Shamrock, and Abednego situation in the furnace with a Sheriff Block or somebody who was there if I would have fell into the system. I wouldn't have made it out. But I learned one thing. I learned that justice has a price to pay, and it's not cheap. Anybody can break the law, but nobody should be invincible of doing the time.